So wait, there's 5 brothers, right? Or there's 5 siblings?
There's six brothers.
6 brothers?
Yes.
And where do you fall in the lineup?
Jonathan's the oldest. I'm 15 months behind him.
So the other ones do Drupal, right? Is that what it was? That they all. The other ones
we don't talk about that.
Oh, hey, look, we're on air.
Hey, we're on the line. We're on the air. What's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Watercooler, episode number 181.
What?
It's maybe.
I know, right?
Maybe
181.
If Jason did his formulas correctly, it might be 281.
Or it's 281.
281.
Yes.
Oh, 281.
You missed
Oh my gosh! I even got that number wrong again. That's awesome. These poor people are going to be like, "What?
We're doing good.
This whole numbering
it's
system."
Great episode today.
I thought it was bigger than 180.
As long as the release numbers end up being correct, then we should be okay, right? And we'll definitely end up talking about release numbers here in just a minute. So let's go around the room real quick.
As long as we stop using the word release right now.
No, that's the word of the day.
That's the word of the day. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I live in North Idaho.
Wow, that's great. Anything else?
What do you do?
I do also.
There's a mountain there, I've heard.
I saw a turtle.
In the winter, I snowboard occasionally, and in the summer, I enjoy. Wait. So we had the 4th of July this week, right?
We did, yeah.
So we took a pontoon out onto Lake Coeur d'Alene. At one point, you got to picture this for just a moment. At one point, there were sailboats with American flags kind of on them and doing this like the sailboat parade. We had some patriotic music playing, and I kid you not, a bald eagle swoops in from the distance and like the pontoon.
Make the noise and everything like they do in all the movies.
No. They're pretty silent.
All right, so let me ask it a different way. What do you do professionally?
Who are you? Yeah.
So professionally, most of my time I spend at XWP, an agency in the WordPress ecosystem.
Lies.
We know it well.
Awesome. Well, good to have
That's
you on.
actually true. Sorry.
Good to have you on. Joshua, we threw you under the bus here. So what's up? How's it going? Tell us about yourself. What's your favorite boat? What's your favorite lake?
My favorite lake is Lake Coeur d'Alene because I chose to move here from Indiana. We found it on a map, decided to move there.
Nice.
Were you just looking for other ice?
Now I question all of your choices.
Coeur d'Alene's pretty amazing. For myself, I work at XWP as well. Jonathan is my brother. We've been basically following each other around for all of life. So it's been pretty awesome. And
how that works. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. My kind of role at XWP is leading design and the work we're doing in UX and just supporting all the great stuff that we do as an engineering team, but from the design perspective and non-assumptions-based design is what I like to call it, because there's a whole bunch of research you can bring to that where the things you're doing are actually based on data and research.
UX for life.
Cool.
Yes.
That's cool. Russ, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
My name is Russell Aaron. I work at Web Dev Studios. My favorite lake is Lake Tahoe. That's where I grew up. So Lake Tahoe, what's up? Largest, highest, steepest alpine lake. And fun fact about Lake Tahoe is it's only 52 to 54 degrees year round. So you can go swimming in December and it feels like you're swimming in July. So, fun fact about Tahoe.
You guys are
so the whole lake's like a time machine.
It's like a big time machine is what it is, yes.
Russell, we used to live in Pollock Pines near Placerville, just south of Tahoe.
Nice.
So, and that's Tahoe.
We're practically brothers.
We actually picked Idaho because we wanted Tahoe without all the people.
Fair point.
Nice.
I'm making serious character judgments right now. There's a profile developing in my
What is that? Everything you've heard about me is true. I heard that on a movie recently.
Say, what about you? Tell us about yourself. What's your favorite lake?
What about Russ? Oh, he just told us his favorite. Right. Sorry, Russ. I was totally paying attention.
It's all about that time machine, right? Let's go back in time.
My name is Say Reed. They're both verbs. And I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress or something. And my favorite lake, that's real hard.
Big Bear.
Can I just pick the Pacific Ocean? Because that's the one I live by. It's not a lake. I was born next to a lake, but I don't want to say where that was because, security and banks.
Is that one of your security questions?
Yeah,
it's one of everybody's security questions.
What lake were you born next to?
What's your favorite lake?
I've never had that as a security question.
But it's a new one. It's coming.
It's coming from all the most secure places.
It's part of.
It's not something you can look up, except for on this episode. That information is not
Hey,
really
Say,
researchable.
I'm just curious. What's
Yes.
your mother's maiden name?
It's Sam Pants.
I didn't know that What's Your Favorite Lake is part of GDPR. Now I know. That is something that was not covered.
Steve, what about you?
I've been diving deep.
What's your favorite 4 numbers? That's all I want to know.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm Steve Zengit. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive. I run the OC WordPress meetup. I don't know that I have a favorite lake. Let's go with Arrowhead.
Nice. All right. I'm Jason Tucker.
Tell them, Steve.
Steve's favorite numbers are 7s and 1s because that's what you got to roll in Vegas.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me on Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. My favorite one is Convict Lake. I love that lake. It's awesome.
Character judgment.
Yeah. Awesome.
I also like lakes and convicts.
It's a mammoth. It's good stuff.
Anyway.
So let's talk about some stuff.
Let's talk about some stuff. We got 24 minutes to fill.
So about my second favorite lake. You should know. I just also want to declare we really truly are the morning show of WordPress. I feel like we should have like little like sound effects go woo 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 all the time.
You need the board. You need
I need a soundboard. I really do. If someone wants to send that to me, I will credit you somewhere on my wall.
It would cost me about $300 on Fiverr to get somebody to actually make a soundboard of all this stuff. So let's talk about
way more fun.
Since we're not allowed to say the word release, say what's another term to describe coming up with a new version of the operating system or thing.
A version.
So there is a new version that is to be released.
There's just a lot of releases happening really fast right now, and I just want to be clear.
So what happened is Say found out that typically when people are related, they usually have the same last name, and so we found out that Jonathan was also related to Joshua, and so we were like, "Wow, check that out! Jonathan and Joshua are related." And one of their names was listed on WP Tavern, and we're like, let's talk about this. So, Joshua, what do you got going on with this release? What's going on with it?
Right now, we're releasing in the version update scheduled shuttle launch of WordPress coming up. And yeah, I'm co-leading with Paul, and then we've got Sergey and Jonathan helping out as deputies. And basically,
this Jonathan?
Another Jonathan.
Different Jonathan.
And because it's all remote, I'm going to take a stab at his pronunciation, Bossinger, I think. And the first week for me, since this is my first time helping on anything like this, has basically just been a lot of private messages trying to figure out what the heck I'm supposed to be doing.
Can we talk about how you are the release lead if you've never done anything like this before? I just want to get into that real quick.
Yes, I welcome that question.
Okay, here it is. Go for it.
For the last year, I've been helping out on Core as a designer. So working on UX with Gutenberg, helping in the design team. I'm working with Tammy and Mel and the other wonderful people over there. So I've been trying to help in do what I can to make an impact. So the question came up, is there any way that perspective from the design team could be brought over into a point release of Core? So that's kind of how it came up, that I'm really just doing what the other folks have done before me to make sure the release gets out the door, but maybe the unique perspective I have could help on some of the track tickets moving forward.
So wait, so just to be clear, to clarify where we are at in the versions at the moment, we had been told at per WordCamp Europe that 497 was going to have the Gutenberg prompt in it. Now we have a little pre-release that hiccup. Yeah, let's call it a hiccup. We have a hiccup. It's a security release that needed to come before. So that prompt that we were talking about previously is now bumped to 498, and 497 is basically a security release or some minor fixes. Yeah,
that's right. 498 is basically privacy and the little notification for Gutenberg. 497 was a security release, and just getting all the blog posts updated and everything has been kind of fun to make sure all those terminology is correct.
I think that wait, I really sorry, I'm just gonna keep talking because
Well, no, have something to add too, but yeah.
Okay, add. No, you're good. You're great.
Well, what I'm curious, and I know this has nothing to do with Joshua, Jonathan, or any of us, but what happens if there's another security release that happens in 4.99? Do we do like 999? Do we do 991?
We do a little dance.
Do we put like a day after it? What do we do here? I'm just curious. I mean, this is a question we should ask Matt. But like, you can't. Come on now. I mean, this is
whoa, you're just like fighting now. 4.910.
I've been wondering the same question because Gutenberg is coming very soon, but we also have this question that. I don't know if you've read Morton's blog posts on semantic versioning and how he's been pushing for that for a long time. And
I read everything Morton puts out. Just so we're clear.
So I am not speaking in any official capacity right now. I'm just thinking out loud in my personal capacity.
Is this off the record? Would you say this is off the record?
I see a little button up there that says live, so I'm not so sure about that.
Look. It's fine. No one. It's not recorded. It's not going to see this. Internet. It's totally just between
the water cooler has no authority whatsoever.
Look, we are a sacred, safe space. Okay, you can say what you need to say here.
Thank you.
It will be mocked relentlessly, but you can say it safely.
All right. So when I was 5 years old, I had this event that come up at a gate where my lip got stuck. All right, moving on. So as far as
tell us about your favorite lake again. Sorry.
I've got a couple of other ones.
I really did have a question about 498. I really did.
Go for it.
Okay.
I'm like turning purple here.
You
okay,
are.
I am. I really am.
It's like Willy Wonka all of a sudden.
Yeah. I guess you're just not as funny anymore, Steve. So, okay. So I guess this is just a statement of my opinion. Shocking. But I think it's actually pretty cool to think about someone who is thinking about or specializes in UX heading up 4.9.8, or more specifically heading up basically the release that will have the prompt in it, because that prompt will basically set the stage for the user experience for Gutenberg, like across all WordPresses, all self-hosted WordPresses. Yeah. So that being done in a way that is good UX, draws you in, gives you the information, makes a lot of sense, doesn't panic people, that could go really well. That could make a huge difference versus something that's like alert, or some other sort of prompt that took people down a confusing path. So that could go really poorly. So basically, I'm going to blame you if Gutenberg's rollout is not perfect.
In other words, Joshua, no pressure. Don't screw up.
See, the thing is, it's going to be amazing, so there's nothing to worry about.
I have a follow-up question. Like, is it going to be one of those like dinky admin notices, or is it going to be like a jQuery like tour walkthrough, or is it going to like have its own special page when you hit an update? I mean, like, what am I going to expect here?
Yes.
Is there an animated video?
Yes.
Is there an animated video?
So to be clear, I'm not actually on that ticket yet. I've just been following it. There's some awesome people working on the ticket. It's happening outside of my direct impact, but I will definitely be giving feedback as it makes sense. But there's
paying more attention now because we are judging.
So, can I make a suggestion? Could I make a suggestion? We could do nested marquee tags, and that will make it really work, because you can make it both bounce up and down as well as left and right.
Just blink tag.
Blink is the only way it works.
Yeah, it'd be sweet. You should definitely do that.
I think that's great.
Jason, you are a master of UX.
I am. I mean, I had to go pull up Internet Explorer like 4 in order to make that happen, but it's going to be good. I think you should be.
I think we should GeoCitiesize the entire WordPress interface.
Nothing says going forward like going backward.
Right. What's old is new again.
I would love if there was like a WordPress dashboard widget that had like my top favorite people in WordPress. I could make my own MySpace top 8 inside of my dashboard. That'd be great.
I would like to just take this moment to point out, since we've never referenced MySpace or top 8 in this entire 5 years, that my brother was in charge of that piece of software and built that. So I just
really? That's awesome.
Little brag about my bro there.
Is your brother's name also Jonathan by a lake?
No, my brother's name is Tom. No, it really is. But not that Tom. Different Tom. Same place, different person.
See, my brother's name is Craig, but it's a whole different kind of list. Like that's where we're at.
Now that I think about it, my brother's pretty, as most of those programmers are like, oh, you and your WordPress code, they look down upon it. But if
is that like a cigar in your hand, or
it was a monocle, I think. I don't know. If I tell my brother that we want him to build a top 8 inside the WordPress dashboard, we might be able to convert him.
I mean, I would just like to have a top 8.
You do it now.
Yeah.
Like next week we have to have another brother on the show, so it has to be yours. Say
I don't have a brother.
Yeah, wait. Do we want my brother on the show? I don't think we do. I'll
bring my sister on the show, but Say's not going to get a word in. I promise you.
We could just have the sibling show. That would be great, and they have our siblings talk about WordPress, and they'd probably be just as informative as we are. So anyway,
learn something.
So aside from my great marquee tag that I provided in the chat room, just in case you need to copy and paste it, what other parts are you looking at kind of doing this here? Yeah. What are you thinking about? What are some of the things that you're thinking regarding how you're going to approach this?
What are you in charge of? Actually?
Yeah.
I am the assistant to the manager.
Assistant to the regional manager.
Do you have a stapler? May I borrow your stapler?
It's in Jello at the moment.
I need this stapler, please.
It's actually been interesting because Paul is the other co-lead on the release, and he is a programmer with 30 years of experience, 8 to 9 years in WordPress, and it's been really relieving for me to work with someone with that level of experience, as he's been helping to navigate and figure out, for me, for one, a track ticket. Even though I've been working in core for the last year, I don't actually understand all the steps that it takes to get a track ticket from start to finish. I understand the UX components of it.
Nobody does.
And yeah, so I would just say for anyone interested in supporting on a future release, this tag teaming effort from my perspective in the last week has been wonderful. Just being able to talk back and forth to figure out how it goes. And just the last bug scrub, it was basically
bug scrub.
We had 2 people, myself and Paul, going back and forth through most of it. And then a few other people jumped in and were like, yes, please join us. We'd love for anyone other than just the 2 of us speaking in Slack. So it's been great.
I kind of treat core tickets like Yoast SEO. I just wait till I get a green light and then I'm good.
What? So wait. You guys were having a bug scrub scrum? Sorry.
It was a Kanban.
I just had to do that.
It was a Kanban, exactly.
I don't know.
Jonathan, what are you doing to? You have to have something that's in there that you need to have added into this release. What's something that you would love?
What's your Easter egg?
Yeah, what's that Easter egg you just want to drop in?
Joshua, right? You said Joshua.
What's that?
So you're asking Joshua, right?
No, I'm asking Jonathan. Jonathan, I want to know, what is it that you're going to do to try to get your brother to do something different to make this into this release? There has to be something.
No. That's not the question. The question is, what blackmail do you have on him to get into the release?
My understanding is you guys both live together your whole life, so I'm curious what you can do to kind of approach this and make this happen.
His house is right down. His house is 27 houses down. By the way, Jonathan has a little trick for getting props in all kinds of releases and plugin updates. He updates the README. He finds a grammatical error in the README and updates
That's my
it.
strategy.
So you've been doing
I did that one time.
semicolons, right? Okay. I see how this is.
I'm just a README contributor.
My one ticket that I did one time was basically saying that the add media button and insert media button should say the same thing.
Oh, beautiful.
I know. I was like, no one cares about this, but I care so deeply. And
You're a core contributor.
I know. I'm so amazing. So great. Oh, yeah.
To answer,
actually, go ahead.
I was curious the other day, like, it's really, as you've already alluded to, it's very hard to just follow the progress of all things happening at once. And things are constantly changing, right? So Josh and I were talking about the other day, and I was like, I mean, for me in general, it was more of a question: is there anything that we can help with? Like, is there more? I think a lot of people don't realize what a small group it is that actually does most of the work on WordPress.
That group does.
The question, like, what if there, what are some areas that people can kind of get more involved in? we started working with the folks at Cloudinary not too long ago. They've got a bunch of experience with media management. So one of the things I prompted Joshua was like, hey, is there any opportunity here if they had the resources to kind of guide and have them contribute to solving some of like the unresolved tickets in media management? So
yeah,
that was an example, and it's just such a tight window that we really should have been asking the question quite a long time back.
But it kind of sets us up for future updates and scheduled.
What I'd like to see is more people contributing their subject matter expertise, even if they can't like write the code, but giving perspective, sharing research, sharing insights, to say, hey, here's what we saw across our customer base, etc.
See,
well,
what's funny is,
the media manager
you don't want to hear about my customer base, all right?
The media manager around here is a pretty deep cut because Say never used the media manager. So if you could make a little upload via FTP button as well, then she'd be pretty happy.
First of all, that is a plugin that exists. And second of all, I was not that you should do that, is that you should always upload your media via the post or page that you are putting it in through, because of the little known attachment feature, which is probably at this point completely moot. But that used to have a lot. It's not moot anymore.
It's still a thing. It's still a thing.
It's still a thing. So I still stand by that post.
Compatibility.
I think that, so that was the thing. It was always that you were attaching it, so it wasn't just, an orphaned piece of media floating around being used as a photo repository, as opposed to uploading things when you are actually putting the content in. And that is forever my point there, and I will make it again and again and again. Thank you. Thank you. I did want to make a point off of what you were just saying, Jonathan, about how you wish people would contribute more. And it's actually kind of inspiring in a weird way. Joshua, you're like inspiring me. Weird. As someone who's like UX, that's really my favorite part of all of this world that we do. It's like my favorite thing to do. But the thing is with UX is a lot of times, like with that add media, insert media button, I feel like it's like so like almost like pedantic, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that in real life,
and pedantic.
Yeah, shallow and pedantic. In real life, when I say those types of critiques and things like that, or even on web pages, it can get tiring to people very quickly. They're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It says the same thing. And I think I have, even with my connection to the community, have been, I don't want to use the word intimidated, but dissuaded. Let's use the word dissuaded from participating and bringing that feedback. Because everyone's having all these high-level discussions about code and whatever, and I'm like, well, so except for when people click that, they're gonna like feel weird about how that goes, and it doesn't feel as important, even though I feel that UX is the top priority of everything. So
can I speak to that for a moment? A year ago,
I guess we really can't stop you.
I was very intimidated to get into WordPress at all, and it was actually several folks on XWP, Jonathan included, like, hey, why don't you just go figure out a way to help out? Here's some ideas, here's some guidance.
Here's the salary.
What I found, no comment. What I found is those small little pedantic things are a way to get in, a way to give feedback and not be intimidated to say, hey, this tiny little thing, and when it makes it into an update, you actually can feel proud of making that tiny little impact, and it can actually encourage you to do more. So that's really what I've been trying to help with in the design team.
I'm curious for the rest of our audience that's listening, what's intimidating? What's intimidating about approaching the WordPress community or the developers or any of it?
Well, so it's not the community, okay, but is in a development environment, let's say, when people start rattling off all sorts of, functions and stuff, whatever. And if you are, just basically not that advanced of a developer, I would consider myself an intermediate, whatever. That can be intimidating because you don't want to be like interfering with all of the important work that people are doing, and it does seem almost, silly or like inconsequential to, fix a comma or whatever. Obviously, Jonathan does not have that problem. But that can, even though that contributes to the actual user's experience and the betterment of WordPress, those things can seem like they're not important when you're talking about, security stuff over here and, the REST API over here and all that stuff. And you're like, well, it'd be really great if that word could, be capitalized. sentence caps or something, you know.
I actually wanted the word custom post type removed, and I wanted to call it like something like content type or like unique content type. Like get rid of the word custom. If you hear custom, like you think you have to do all this extra steps. So like additional content type. Like that's what I wanted to refer them to, and like that didn't get approved, obviously.
Point of order on WordPress.com. Point of WordPress. Yeah, on WordPress.com, custom post types are actually called custom content types or content types, not or content post types. I'll have to look, but they have the word content in there, not custom. So they did take your advice. They just took it somewhere else.
That's how I describe it to all of our people in our WordPress meetup. Is like it's not custom. It's an additional content type for all your your things. Like I think when you relate to that, I think it makes WordPress less scary, right? Maybe not.
Yeah,
sure.
I think so.
Marquee tag.
Blank.
So the one thing I'll say is if you are a non-developer interested in working in WordPress, there's absolutely room for you. At WordCamp Europe, I went to Contributor Day and just seeing 800 people, I think, 600 people in a room. And at the design table, I was co-leading with Monique, and we got 15 people who had never contributed to design in WordPress, and we were able to get the onboarding process started. We were inspired by that. So,
yeah, Contributor Day is just like that. I mean, there's a place for
very motivational,
and the team needs help, right? So if you are thinking of approaching, just do it because the team can use you somewhere. And I can say that about all the teams. I'm involved more in the WordCamp side of things, and the WordCamp team, WordCamp US especially. The team needs help.
Yeah, it's just not a developer focused thing. I mean,
but do they need like help or do they need like help? You know what I mean? Because that's really.
I don't. Well, they need that too, but.
Are there any licensed therapists in the WordPress community? Please join the WordCamp team.
More for me and say, but
there's a lot of licensed therapists that have WordPress sites, but I don't know if they're actually like WordPress, knowledgeable.
We could do a call out.
Well, we have
life coaching if you need.
We have a chief of surgery or chief of staff of a hospital is a WordPress dev. So yeah, like there's all sorts of types in this here community. I think that's, and everyone's always talking about community and get involved and all that, but it really is, I don't know. It makes it just pales in comparison to the importance. So even you, Steve, going like, oh, you should get involved, whatever. I guess it just takes a village to make a WordPress, and it's easy to forget that.
Bridget Willard has this great thing about how she contributed to core, and like she just went through and like she rewrote the intro stuff to like one of the WordPress versions, and then she's like, that's how I contributed. I mean, literally, like if you just write content, you can just update content to describe what Joshua is going to put in this, this prompt. Like you could just describe it, and there's your core contributor.
There's a lot of commas there, Jonathan, that you can jump into.
One of the things that I think is important is for people to generally cultivate a sense of awareness. Because it's easy for people to assume rather that there's nothing that they can do, right? Or it's too hard, or I can't do this, and it's also
hide behind that like it's a protective shield.
Right.
I mean, whatever.
So how do we bring awareness? Do we just like change our Facebook profile picture? Like, is that what we do?
There you go. Yes. Thoughts and prayers.
A blue ribbon? We should have a blue ribbon.
I'm like, contributor days are great. And I think like we have to, I think it has something to do with setting people's expectations, because I've seen a lot of stories of people kind of getting started and getting discouraged because the first responses aren't positive. And there's also a lot of great, really positive stories too. I got a chance to catch up with some folks at WordCamp Europe who are thinking a lot about onboarding and making that first experience more and more positive for people.
That's my obsession.
You have to. If you don't set the expectation, then anything is possible, and we really want people to follow a path, and like.
But when anything is possible, it also feels like it's like everyone's like, okay, just go help. And everyone's like, can someone tell me how or what to do or like what I should pick up or whatever? Just help. That is also not
the easiest thing I've seen is jump into the Slack meetings every week and just raise your hand, say, hey, I'll help with this thing you just discussed.
Yep.
I gotta set an alarm for that.
Not it.
Not it. Love it. about it, I want to say thank you very much for all of you folks for coming over and hanging out with us. Even your neighbor down the street, that was so awesome of him to just show up. That was so
Random
cool.
neighbor.
That was like a Mr. Rogers call out.
I want you to aim your camera again, Jonathan. I want you to stick your hand out the window.
I think we should go there. I think we should go there and have a block party.
You should come here.
Let's do it.
To be.
Coeur d'Alene WordCamp. You never know.
Nice. Well, hey,
that a
we
thing?
did one in Orange County. You can definitely do one over there too.
We have a meetup.
So I want to say thank you very much for all of you folks for coming over and hanging out with us on WP Water Cooler, hanging around the virtual water cooler and doing all that stuff. If you want to subscribe to this stuff and you don't want to look at our faces, but you want to listen to it, you can go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. That's where you can go ahead and subscribe to this particular podcast. So talk to y'all later. Freaking morning zoo, man. I swear. All right, y'all. See you later. Bye.